2024 BMW Z4 M40i manual transmission first drive, back to better times. BMW once again builds the Roadster both you and the automaker always claimed to want. Just when you thought the American automotive landscape couldn't get any stranger, sales of cars with manual transmissions are booming here in the US. Perhaps it's part of an anti-EV backlash, a collective realization that as the car continues to electrify, soon we won't be able to buy these things. Maybe it's part of Netflix's drive to survive phenomenon, its massive impact that's seen not one but two new F1 races added to the American scene for a total of 3 Grands Prix in this country? Perhaps a bunch of people want sportier cars as a result. Maybe the masses are listening to automotive journalists? I kid. Porsche just 86'd the Panamera wagon, so that's clearly not the case. Whatever the reason, sales of manual transmission cars have nearly doubled in the US, rising from 0.9% of new cars sold in 2021 to 1.7% so far in 2023. This trend seems to have legs, so much so that a small team at BMW, led by an American dude named Nick Gerstner with an H pattern and a motorcycle sequential shifter tattooed on either forearm, convinced the company's board to stick a 6-speed, shift-it-yourself contraption in the not-selling-so-hot BMW Z4 M40i Roadster for the upcoming 2024 model year. Expected to go into production in the first quarter of 2024 for approximately $3,500 more than the existing BMW Z4 M40i starting price of $66,300. The new offering will give you not only a 6-speed manual transmission and a third pedal, but a whole host of other upgrades and improvements over the base Roadster. It includes your choice of 2, exclusive to manual cars green paint jobs, exciting stuff for fans of cars that aren't grayscale. BMW's decision to add a manual option, while rare, isn't unprecedented. The 2015 Porsche GT3, aka the 991.1 GT3, shipped with only a dual-clutch autobox, Porsche's brilliant PDK. For 2018 in the 991.2 GT3, Porsche reintroduced a manual gearbox option. I remember on the launch of the 991.2 version talking to both GT division boss Andy Preuninger and racing driver Andy Wallace about internal projections for manual take rates. They thought perhaps as high as 20%, but more like 10%. Turns out globally it's a 30% take rate for Porsches, and in the US it's 70%. Ahem, 70%. So you can see why BMW's board said ja to the idea of doing the same with the 2024 Z4 M40i. Just more than 5 years ago, I attended the launch of the then new BMW Z4 and had an interesting talk with the car's project manager, Oliver Jung. He walked me through the 4th generation 2-seat Roadster's development process, beginning with the cars his team benchmarked. It began with an M240i convertible, then an Audi TT, then a Mercedes-Benz SLC before finally studying a Porsche 718 Boxster S conclusion. The Z4 surpassed every one of them in every way, save for the Boxster's handling, that was simply a bridge too far. I concluded at the time that the Z4 M40i was indeed a great third car, a weekend getaway vehicle, but also that there's a sweetness missing from the mix, a sweet sportiness present in not only the Boxster S but in the original BMW Z3 as well. Losing the plot is always a harsh criticism to level at a carmaker, but BMW's Z story had changed. Does this manual mean it's changing back? Enter the baby elephant in the room, the Toyota GR Supra manual. A little more than a year ago, Toyota went ahead and dropped a 6-speed manual into its 6-cylinder Supra. Collectively, we were whelmed with the addition of a manual, though personally I was underwhelmed by the shift-it-yourself variant. That's a long-winded way of saying I didn't have high hopes for this manual Z4. After all, the Supra and the Z4 are mechanically identical. People have made YouTube careers by pointing out all the BMW labeled parts found in the Toyota. And the BMW uses the same piece of transmission hardware from supplier ZF. However, the shift linkages are different, as is the software tuning. Also, many of us have never been a fan of BMW manuals. They traditionally have a rubbery, soft bushings feel to them. Like the one in the new M2. The company has not come up with a new name for the 2024 BMW Z4 M40i manual, which is probably a good thing seeing how confusing BMW's nomenclature already is. Hey, I didn't come up with S-Drive 30i. However, there's enough change here to warrant one. These updates include the more aggressive rear axle from the M240i, a retuned suspension setup that includes stiffer front anti-roll bars, reworked steering, and recalibrated adaptive dampers. The wheels are staggered, 19 inches up front and 20 inches out back. The pre-production prototype I drove was about 95% of the way there in terms of the suspension, or kinematics, as BMW likes to say, but if this is representative of what the finished car will feel and drive like, customers have nothing to worry about. Along with much to be excited about. The engine in the 2024 BMW Z4 M40i manual and automatic versions remains the same. It's the 3.0-liter turbocharged inline-six BMW puts into practically every car it makes. For the US, it pumps out 382 horsepower and 369 pounds-to-foot of torque. In our testing, this engine's good enough to power the automatic Z4 to 60 miles per hour in 3.9 seconds and through the quarter mile in 12.3 seconds at 114.1 miles per hour. In other words, legit sports car numbers, right in there with, say, a Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Although the manual Z4 will, probably, be lighter than the auto, the fact humans shift slower than computers means it will, probably, be slower in straight-line acceleration. The manual GR Supra is 53 pounds lighter than the automatic variant, 3,342 versus 3,395 pounds, but also accelerates slower, 4.3 seconds to 60 miles per hour versus 4.0, 12.8 seconds in the quarter mile versus 12.3. There are no changes to the brakes or sheet metal. One last thing, BMW doesn't plan to stick a manual transmission in the 4-cylinder S-Drive 30i version of the Z4. For now, anyway. We'll see how sales of this one go first. It's immediately apparent the manual should have been part of the latest BMW Z4 from day one. If I may go cliché, a machine like the Z4 is not about needs, it's about your wants and desires. Nobody sits around dreaming about a perfectly average automatic transmission. The fantasy is the total roadster package, the journey being the better part of the vacation, the full driving experience you get from 4 fully engaged limbs. Hence, while the regular Z4 is a fine driving machine, the manual is much better. I'm not saying it's the ultimate, sorry, BMW marketing team, but the stick shift sure raises the bar as far as motoring enjoyment is concerned. Vehicle completeness, too. The desirability is cranked way up. I'll go so far as to say, even if the transmission remained in auto, the baseline Roadster is also much improved. The shifter itself is a big step up from the same mechanical ZF unit found in the Toyota Supra. Indeed, BMW says the Z4 manual shift linkage is physically different than the Supras, and it sure feels that way. The shifts are crisper, more mechanical, less rubbery, more satisfying. You know what else? The Z4's transmission feels better than the M2's 6-speed. Same for the row your own M3. Along with the other changes BMW implemented, the sporty factor has increased noticeably. As athletic as a Porsche Boxster? No, but name a competitor's car that is. The 2024 BMW Z4 is in a much better place performance-wise than it was. That's a good thing. Running around some of the quieter back roads on a perfect fall day near BMW's Performance Center in Greenville, South Carolina, I'm overcome by the feeling this is the car BMW wanted to build in the first place. Or at least it should have. Good on BMW for taking this corrective step. Why didn't it offer 2 transmissions from day one? Not to go all Bob Lutz here, but not offering a manual on a 2-seat Roadster is what happens when you let accountants into the room. It's always easy to fall back on the numbers, and it's safer not to take a chance. But if you make a good product, customers will appreciate it, discover it, and buy it. As my best friend used to say, I like things that are good. Which is why I like the new 2024 BMW Z4 M40i manual. If you like driving, you probably will, too.